Hold on, we're spinning. Now we're live.
Now
We
we're
are
live.
live.
We are live. That happens to be Pop Psychology Live, by the way. Not just live. That's a different show.
Yes. And not merely alive either.
Yeah, right. Although sometimes I feel barely that.
There are those days.
Yes.
Right?
Well, welcome. Good to see you.
Yes. And welcome everybody out there to Pop Psychology Live. We'll rub your brain. If
Yes.
you hadn't noticed or you haven't experienced it yet, it's
I'm
something.
wondering if some people have felt the rub yet. I
Oh,
would be curious to know in comments if you have felt your brain being rubbed either the right way or the wrong way. That would be interesting to me to know.
I know one person did. Um, that in the middle of our broadcast last week, they just left.
I guess they got rubbed the wrong way.
Yep. They were like,
That's
ooh, that's
pretty
enough
much
of that.
yeah. That's pretty much evidence that we rubbed the brain the wrong way.
Yes. Well, good. Then we're doing our job. We can talk
Absolutely.
frankly here.
Yeah.
We try to
We
be open and transparent. And,
no, we are bipartisan. We either way, we will rub it either way. So
but it's important to know that if you are actually coming to us for true psychological care, you're in the wrong place.
yeah.
This is not where you want to be if you
No.
are experiencing a mental health emergency. We would highly recommend that you seek appropriate help, uh, definitely elsewhere, and about as far elsewhere as you can get from us.
You'd get better advice if you looked in one of those old 50s bad joke books,
Yes.
which I happen to have a few around, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. So we are Pop Psychology Live, sponsored by PhoenixTrainingGroup.com, Violence Workplace Prevention Program. Oh, there it is right there. There we are.
Yes, there's
Um,
Phoenix Training Group.
Yes, servicing schools, social services, healthcare, law enforcement, Target stores, anywhere that you run into cranky people, we will help um, decipher how to deal with people who become aggressive in your face and what to do either de-escalation wise or physical. We will help you with those kind of things. So that's we are sponsored by. In addition to our a couple other sponsors, we have the Belladonna Foods, um, and
Nope.
which there it is, and a website on the way. It's being built as we speak. There we go. And so, and then, do we still have graphics for the AAMN?
Absolutely. And
There
what
they
is the
are.
AAMN?
There they are. Yes, fine group of men and women helping out. Yes, absolutely. It's not just men. There are a lot of wonderful women helping out in that association, but it's just recognizing who are nurses. Men make good nurses too. Which is
And
good.
also, if you are wondering, what
Um,
exactly is pop psychology?
yeah, well, there's the explanation right there from the professional, by the way.
Yes, this is
Dr.
a trained
Tell.
professional who has been consulted on what is pop psychology. And his reply is, well, I'm not sure what pop psychology is, but I don't like it.
Yep.
So there you go.
There you go. See? So that pretty much sums us up in a nutshell.
Yes, if he's wise enough to know he doesn't like it, then welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to Pop Psychology Live.
All the
Here
more
we are.
better to listen to us because you know you want to always do the wrong thing sometimes. People tell you what to do, and you always want to do the opposite, right? So,
We're the forbidden fruit of mental health.
ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Man, we should put a banner up there somewhere. The
I'll work on
forbidden
one.
fruit of pop psychology. I like that.
We don't
Wow.
recommend it. Uh, Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stay away.
Yep. So,
So,
what's been going on this week?
wow, it seems like there's a tremendous amount going on. It seems we halfway know who our next president is, and then we also don't know. And so that's happening. Normally, by this time, we do have a fair idea. For anybody listening that's not in America, we just had our elections. And normally, after we have the elections, we do have an idea of who our president is. And this time it's a little different.
In a year that's not labeled 2020, we would always know. But the fact that this is 2020, that means everything's off.
Yes. I've seen so many great memes about 2020.
I love
like
them all,
like the raggedy broken bridge over the huge chasm, and there's a big alligator facing you on the bridge, and it says the bridge to 2021. This is what you'll have to cross.
Right. Oh, I love that Michael J. Fox even referenced that in a commercial. He was on some commercial, and it was something I don't even remember what the commercial was about. But at the end, it had Back to the Future references throughout the commercial. And at the end, Michael J. Fox is on there dressed in Western gear, and he goes, "Whatever you do, don't set the dial to 2020."
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're this close to getting through 2020, and I saw another meme that had it's the one where The Rock is in the front seat and he has the girl in the back seat, and he's like, "Well, it sure is good that we're almost through 2020," and she's like, "What if 2021 is just like hold my beer?" And like, oh no, that's entirely possible.
No, it can't be. It cannot be. No.
It almost qualifies to be stricken from history books, where there'll just be a gap. There'll be 2019 and stuff ended, and then there'll be hopefully there'll be 2021, and we'll just pick up again.
Like a leap year. It just is missing.
Yeah, we instead of just getting a day, we just leap the year.
Right, just the whole year. A leap year should be 2020.
Yes. And I think if we put that to a vote, we wouldn't have a whole lot of dangling chads or lost votes. I think that
would be much quicker than the presidential election.
A lot of people would just say, "Go."
Yeah.
Just strike this from the
history. Say no more. Yes.
Get a mulligan on January 1st. Just start over.
Yeah. Groundhog Day. That'd be horrible for this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Now we're talking horror stories, right. which is good because it's kind of on topic with one of the things we wanted to talk to tonight. We've been promising it for weeks, and we keep running out of time. So maybe if we start early this week with the Ghost Town murders, perhaps we could cover it well and get through it.
I think we will definitely have time to do that today. Definitely. Before we get to that, just things in the news that are happening, odd things, pop psychology things. Do you have any? What do you have? You have your signature. What?
This is just a ginger ale.
Is it signature ginger ale?
It's an experiment because we went to this this later in the day broadcast time.
Yeah.
So it used to be coffee.
Right.
But that's when we were in the morning, and that
right.
would be
Notice no monster.
Okay, yes. So we are changing here. We're changing up. So I've tried various things. A gin and tonic worked out really well one time.
Yes.
That was nice. Yeah. But this is just a generic ginger ale.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah. Good.
Kroger, which to you all on the West Coast, you are Ralph's.
Yes, we are.
In the Midwest, it's Kroger.
Yeah.
Here in Colorado, it's King Soopers.
Yep.
But they're all the same thing. But this does say
Same.
Kroger on it. We're not
Same
sponsored by them, but
Same recipe, yes.
we will welcome them.
Yes. Yeah, this is just your Walmart special.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like a can that is just unpretentious like that. It's just cola.
I rarely ever drink regular Coke unless it's from a restaurant or fast food or something. If we have whatever we have here is going to be the cheap brand because it's exactly the same thing. So
cola.
It's cola. There you go.
It's cola.
So things that are going on this week. I thought it was very interesting that Britney Spears lost her bid to get released from her father's clutches, being her conservator. Just recently.
Talk about that. What was that originally?
Originally she got placed on here in California. It's called a 5150, and that's the 3-day hold, the 72-hour hold.
It's a mental health.
Correct.
Hold, right?
Danger to yourself, danger to others, gravely disabled, danger to self.
And those are either ors. It doesn't have to be all three of those.
No, it's one or the other, right?
Just to clear up that we're not saying Britney was both dangerous to herself, others, and
no. It's you could just have one. That's fine.
It's a comma
that'll qualify you.
Yeah.
Danger to others, that's self-explanatory. You're dangerous to somebody else. Danger to self, you're might be self-harming. Gravely disabled, a lot of people don't know that one. That just basically means that you cannot care for yourself. If somebody would place you on a sidewalk, you would perish. You couldn't get your food, shelter, clothing, things like that. You would just die on the sidewalk there. And so you couldn't do things for yourself. That's all that means. Mostly that's reserved for geriatrics. But she did qualify for the danger to self because she had an episode and she was off her meds. And a lot of times I think that she didn't even know she needed the meds at the time. They've since stabilized her and she's doing very well. She's even done some concerts, but she was conserved, which means somebody is in charge of her estate, her well-being, her money, her estate, her decisions, things like that. So it was initially her father and an attorney. The attorney backed out now, so it's just her father. So her father actually wanted out of it a while back, and then because he got sick, but he's since now reinstated himself, and so he is the sole conservator. He makes all the decisions about her life, basically.
Oh wow!
And so she can't spend money. She can't do things legally unless she goes through her father and gets permission to basically do anything that governs her life. And so she, the odd thing is there's this movement all across the world. It's Free Britney movement. And a lot of people think that she's being held against her will, and she can't even go outside or anything, but that's just not true. She just went to Hawaii with I think her husband currently. So they just went to Hawaii, but she's not doing any concerts now until she gets off of the conservatorship. So she has refused to do any concerts now until that happens.
Wow.
So she hasn't been doing concerts for quite a while now. So she wanted out of that deal. She wanted to be off of her conservatorship and be responsible for her own money, for her own decisions making process. And the court found that it should stay that way for a little while, that the father is in charge. So
how odd is it that her father has that and not her husband?
Her husband,
does he have to take care of the husband as well? Is he like running a daycare now?
Yeah, it's court appointed, so the court will look at who is really for your best interest. The father has been with you all of her life, obviously, So he is the best suited to make any of those kind of life decisions where
Okay.
a new husband coming along could take advantage of that very easily. And so they're just not going to let that happen. He could just go, yeah, I don't want to be married anymore, drain the bank account and be off to Buenos Aires. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
So did they set like some exit criteria or acceptance criteria where if
they
she
didn't
meets these
say it was
conditions?
impossible. They just said not now. So we'll have to, we being the court, will have to see more evidence down the line that you can be okay. Because there have been some incidences where she's been a little bit sporadic, but that happens if you miss a med or something. So she has to be on her medications all the time. She has been diagnosed, and so she is bipolar, and she does have some mental health issues. So she has to be on her medication. She has to be in treatment all the time, in order to stay healthy for her. And if she
Okay.
does that, she maintains that for a long period of time, then if she proves that she can do that by herself, then they'll let her off, but just not now. I just think that's very,
Okay.
very, um, very odd that this whole thing has happened. That the world thinks that they need to free Britney.
Well, everybody likes a cause, I
Yeah,
think.
they just look at James, her father, is this like Mr. Burns type guy from this
Right.
the Family Guy,
Excellent. He's like,
or Simpsons,
yes.
the Simpsons, right? I'm managing all of her money. He takes a paycheck just like any other person on her entourage. So he's not getting rich over it. So,
Has she done interviews on this, or
not many,
is she
no.
pretty openly talking about it, or?
She is on her Instagrams and her social media platforms. She talks a little bit about it. But the thing that I find curious is every time she posts a picture or talks to her public, the public comes back immediately and say there were secret messages in that because uh, somebody said, if you're being held against your will, wear yellow. Right? And so the next post she did, she was wearing a yellow blouse. And so
Yep.
it fueled that. See, she is being held against her
She's
will.
a prisoner.
She's a prisoner. She wore the yellow that we said wear if you're being held against your will.
Of course, she also had an email saying wear red, one that said wear
Right.
blue, one that said wear orange,
I'm
pretty much
sure.
every color.
I'm
And that
sure.
day she just happened to be wearing yellow.
I'm sure that's the case. But I just think
Yeah.
it's fascinating that the whole public has just jumped on the bandwagon of they ask her to disclose something very personal and involving a bird or something, and there was a bird in the background of her thing. I was like, see, she's being held against her will. Free Britney.
We've got to get her out of there.
I mean,
Raid at dawn.
they actually have like protests and they have signs, free Britney and things. It's just,
Wow.
I know.
I envy those people. When you think if that's really what you need to worry about that day, that's the level of worry in your life. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I think that's a pretty good set of problems to have, is that I'm extremely concerned about Brittany.
At least,
Great.
at least people care, and that's really
Yes.
a nice thing. I mean, the only absurdity is all the conspiracy theories. I'm actually really proud of her for doing what she needs to do to get her life back on track. And she was really off the rails there for a while. And people thought that she may not even live through the next couple of years. And she's done
Wow.
a amazing job to get herself back. And she works very hard at it. And so I have to be proud of her for that.
It's very bizarre that we don't hear more about that
Hmm.
in public personas. And I attribute in part one, if you're well known, it's very difficult to have anybody think of you as less than exceptional.
Right.
Would be one thing that would keep that out.
Or perfect.
Um, yeah, like oh, this will really hurt my career or whatnot. But it almost seems anytime we hear about a crisis with a public figure like that, um, there's a great amount of empathy that people really can relate to it, or it makes them more human. Um, these people that are, far away, they're, top of the world, they're
Mhm.
rich, they're famous, they're everything. But when they let out, they let it be known that they're just as human as any of us.
Yeah.
I have seen that with a lot of stars, that it actually propels their career even further, that
It,
people
it will
appreciate that level of honesty.
it will now. I think as little as 5 years ago, it wasn't the case. I think in the last 5 years, we as a society have understood that this is real, that mental health and mental illness is real, and it shouldn't be hidden, and it shouldn't be ashamed of. And now you have courageous people, stars and celebrities and things, coming out now and saying, I have mental health issues, and this is how I deal with it, and I'm not perfect, and I'm on medications. And that's just been in the last 5 years or so. Before that, you were on TMZ nonstop for being insane, or crazy, and those of us who have been champions for that change. For myself, been trying to change that for over 40 years, and never, the society just never took a consideration that that's a real thing, and it should be empathetically dealt with, not condemned. But you just even there's a drink that I have some, just because I had to buy some as an example in our trainings of how these bad examples of how we see mental health and mental illness are portrayed. There's a company out here in California that put out a energy drink, and it's called 5150. Live the madness, you know, and that's an energy drink, and they thought that was a good idea to capitalize on the 5150. That's our 3-day hold, a 72-hour hold here in California. The 5150 just adheres to the law. It's just the 5150 law. There's 5150, 5250. It's all the different laws that pertain to holding somebody against their will. And so here in California, it just happens to be 5150. A lot of people know that term, but it's only relevant in California. No other state has that terminology. They call them affidavits or psych 3000s or whatever. Each state has their own term for it.
Right.
But California is 5150, and so I just thought it was really odd to make an energy drink and call it 5150, live the madness, and think that that's just okay. And that's, to me, that was really old thinking, because obviously it hasn't done well. And it wouldn't even be relevant outside of California. You cannot sell that drink in Michigan, and people would go, "What's that mean? 5150? I don't know what that means," because it's only California that people really know.
Sure.
5150. So it's kind of an
But
idiotic thing to do anyway.
the tagline "Live the Madness" could really be. People love that.
Yeah.
We do live in a day and age where there is a drive towards insanity,
Yes.
and it's applauded. So there's both sides of it. There's people that are experiencing a mental health issues
Yeah.
and recognize this isn't all fun and games.
Yeah.
But then there's another crowd that embraces that as, like, whether it's regarded as passionate or living on the edge or
Yeah, like
whatever.
extreme sports or something.
Sure,
and that
but
makes
maybe
total
not in a
sense.
healthy like that.
Yeah, and I believe it's never black and white. I believe it's everything's a spectrum, right? And so up to a point, it can be appropriate and fun and like extreme sports associated things like that. But once it starts to be personal, then it starts to take away the integrity, right? And they were just making it really personal and profiting off of madness, you know, and insanity and putting people on 5150 3-day holds and obviously they didn't do very well, but I've got some cans just because I had to. I show them in my class once in a while, and the nowadays the reaction is pretty consistent, and they just go, oh, that's just terrible, that's so thoughtless and not being empathetic. And where a few years ago that would have been the most hysterical thing in a class. If I would have showed that 5-6 years ago in a class, the people that were in even in behavioral health probably would have said, "Oh my God, that's so funny,
That's so funny.
that's so
Yeah.
funny." But nowadays it's a different world, and because, like you were saying, celebrities have started to kind of come out now and saying, I have mental health issues and this is what I do and I'm not perfect. And I think that we have developed as a society a little bit more empathy for people who are not perfect, you know, in the eyes of celebrity. And we see more of that now. There was just another article the other day. Another celebrity came out and said, I have mental health issues. Yes, I do. And these are what they are. And this is what I do. And this is what I have to do. And as long as I do this, I'm good. I'm fine. If I don't do this, then yeah, I'm off the rails.
And it really could have been accelerated by 2020 that a greater portion of society now relates.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
Yeah. And
oh man, I get
I
it. Maybe I made fun of that a few years ago, but I get it now.
see, and as kind of we're making fun of that, but really there's some truth to that. That this year everyone can understand a lot of diversity this year.
And so that makes me wonder, has this been a very reflective
Mhm.
year? Has
Oh, I
this
think.
been where people have been kind of stripped bare
Mhm.
from a lot of the things that they might turn to in by means of avoidance? Um, you know, entertainment is huge. You used to be able to go any kind of entertainment anytime you wanted, anywhere, um, everywhere, and so you could have endless distractions
Right.
from yourself for the most part.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people use it for that. But with that being stripped away, perhaps we are seeing now what are the results of a society that's used to external, being kind of forced into this role of being alone with yourself in a sense.
Yeah.
And what effect is that having?
I think it's a tremendous positive, actually. I think there are tremendous positives that are going to come out of this, even though people are like, oh my God, 2020. I think that there are tremendous amounts of good things that are going to come out of this. And a lot of them, each one of us are not going to be aware of. It's just those things that are kind of subconscious a lot of times, but being more self-reflective, being having more diversity in your life always strengthens us. Being together with family that wouldn't have normally happened. Um, Realizing that you're in a wrong relationship that you would have continued for years, but now you're forced together and you go, nope, this is not going to work, and then getting divorced. Um, I think that it has forced a lot of us to, like you say, self-reflect and then come to terms with ourselves, other people, society, what's wrong, what's right, and do something about it. And we have time to do something about all that stuff now. And so I think that diversity in any kind of setting is actually a good thing. It forces us to deal with things we don't normally would deal with or want to deal with. And so I for all of the crap that's happened this year, I think that a tremendous amount of good is going to come out of this. It may be down the line and people kind of realize it ahead, maybe next year, the following year, a couple of years, few years, but I think that they're going to reflect on this as being, you know what, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I mean, it was bad. There were, the corona is bad. It's just horrible. But it forced me to do this, think this, be more reflective about that, look at myself, look at others, strengthen our relationships, realize what was lacking in our family, what we were doing right, to be more involved with my kids, all these things, right? I mean, the test I saw a lot was you'd see these wealthy people and celebrities, and they were just having meltdowns literally on social media about having to homeschool their children. And they couldn't do it. They were literally having meltdowns online and saying, I don't know how people do this. And it's like, well, yeah, my wife's been doing that all of our years because our kids are homeschooled, right? And she's like going, I don't see the big deal. Yeah, it's rough sometimes, but I love doing it. I love being involved with my kids. And there's that Christmas song. Oh gosh, I wish I were more prepared for that. Where it says, Mom and Dad can't wait till school starts again, because the kids are all home for the holidays,
Right.
and can't wait till school starts again because they'll be off to school again. Like, thank God that they're going to be back in school and we don't have to deal with the kids. Like, that's, to me, that we just think total opposite. We're ecstatic when the kids are with us, and we feel better with the kids with us. And when kids leave, we don't feel as good. And so it's like, that's weird to us to even put that in a song, but that was the way it was back in the 40s and 50s when they made these kind of songs. Parents were parents and children were need to be quiet and not seen, not heard, and their feelings didn't matter, and they're not grown up, so they feel no stress, and that's just the way people thought. And I think that this year, a lot of people are getting to know their families more, and that might be kind of a long-term process of repairing some of the damage that we've done over the years with social media and the lack of involvement with kids and all sorts of things. So and there's lots of research to back that up too. I'm not just.
That's funny though, because that I was thinking almost the opposite. As far as it's very emblematic of a society that has forgotten about parenting.
Mm-hmm.
That I was thinking the 40s and the 50s, when mom was super active in the kid's life, that they raised their kids. And we have entered an age where TVs raise our kids and video games raise our kids, and the schools, the public schools raise our kids.
Yeah.
And we've become accustomed to that, so that when the kids are home now, all day, every day, never ending, that now that's shocking that we have this kid in our house that has always been gone most of the time before that. So I was looking at it almost opposite to what you said, but you do have that unique perspective, and anybody who homeschools their children does have that unique perspective, that you are the responsible force for shaping and molding the lives of your children.
Yeah.
And it's not put on someone else. It's not on a school, a video game, somebody you don't even know telling your kids whatever. So that unfortunately is a minority amount of people in our society today that has undertaken to do that.
Yes. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think that there's a spectrum of that as well, and there's what was portrayed, and there what was subconscious, and there's psychological things that were happening a lot back then that nobody knew about. Everyone thought that 100% Boy Scouts and scouting was the best thing ever, right? For for young
Yeah,
men,
that
right?
viewpoint has changed.
And that has changed. I have a mosquito in here. That has changed dramatically, right? And so there was what was perceived as perfection, because the scouting was perceived as absolute perfection back then, and there were, and luckily, by the way, I was a Boy Scout for many, many, many years, and I guess they just didn't like me because I never had that situation come up
You
like
didn't have any cause to join the lawsuit,
that.
right?
Right? I had no cause whatsoever, because I guess I was just I don't know, I thought I was kind of decent looking back then, but luckily I,
Oh, so now there's a whole new complex of what's wrong with me?
I know.
Why didn't the Boy Scouts come after me?
See, there's a new lawsuit in that. See, well, they didn't pick me, so I'm going to sue.
It made me feel inferior. I wasn't good enough. Oh, that's just too twisted.
It's absurd. But luckily, yeah, I had good scout leaders that didn't, as far as I know, partake in that. Uh, but but that was perceived as perfection back then. That was the ultimate, and now we find out that that's psychologically that just wasn't the case. So there are a lot of things that were absolutely the much better. Time we spent with our kids, eating dinner together, without phones, um, uh, and holidays, and all sorts of things that were really uh, um, special back then, and being together, and spending time with family, and yeah, you're right. The TV and internet and phones and things have taken over our parenting. So in that respect, yes, absolutely, we were much better parents back then. I think that people were than they are now, but it's just changed. It's not black or white. It's not bad or good. It's just changed a lot, and I think that this might bring back some of the strength in families.
Well, and just to be clear for anybody listening, it's important to separate um, what we're saying about Boy Scouts. Uh, the organization itself
Yes.
did not say, "Hey, you guys should molest kids," or "You
Right.
should." That's not Boy Scouts as an organization was designed to teach leadership
Correct.
skills, to teach skills, to
Correct.
give
Yeah.
you that confidence to be able to learn and grow in a wide variety of things. It taught a lot of responsibility. It taught accountability. It taught
Yeah.
all that. So the organization itself
Oh,
was not what was
absolutely.
responsible for it. It was human beings.
Right. Right.
like
Exactly.
like
Flawed.
what becomes the problem in any organization that ends up with corruption in it.
Right.
It's the people that make it that, usually not the organization itself.
Correct. Right. And it's typically always like that, and flawed individuals who who mess it up, and that's the case. I learned a tremendous amount in Boy Scouts, and it made me a much, much better person. All the things that we had to do, and it was kind of like a watered down military. It teaches you skills that carry with you for the rest of your life. And so luckily, those are the only skills that were taught to me at that point. And it's been horrific what they've had to deal with, and
Right.
the organization itself is not to blame, in that they were teaching the right things. They just sometimes may have not made decisions about hiring people or having people help. But that, like you said, it happens with every organization, especially large organizations like that. But yeah, I learned a lot. I had a great time in Boy Scouts.
So, are we at a good point
Yeah.
to get to the ghost town murder?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
First, how right before we will get to that. Let me our where's my bottle? Where has my sponsorship bottle gone? Here, hold on. I will
Oh
be
no.
there. There it is, right there. Yes, here, our sponsor, um, our sponsor for Belladonna Foods. Here,
Oh,
right
nice.
there, right?
Yes.
And look who I have with me, but Belladonna.
Belladonna herself?
Yes,
Don't be
Belladonna.
shy.
See,
Don't be shy.
Hi,
Hi,
Tim.
Donna.
How are you?
Welcome to Pop Psychology Live.
Yeah.
I just came barging
We're-
in to give Jack something. I forgot.
We are evaluating the psychology of spaghetti sauce today, and
Yes.
that's why we've had you here.
Pure happiness.
It tastes like Christmas.
Pure happiness. Very nice.
So this is Belladonna.
Yes. For
Okay.
everybody who doesn't know.
Yes. Okay. So
Let's see.
back on track.
Oh, I do have a quick pop psychology myth for you.
What?
Okay. So, and you might know this one already, but do people that are asked to hold a pencil in their teeth find cartoons funnier than people that hold a pencil in their lips?
Do people asked? You mean if you're asked to place a pencil?
Yeah. So if they sat you down and they said, "Here, hold a pencil in your teeth
Mm-hmm.
or in your lips," in which one of those would you find cartoons funnier?
Teeth.
You got it. It's a real study. I guess this is, people
Pay money for these studies too, by the way.
people have ways to get money to fund things like this. Like, we want to see if cartoons are funnier if you hold a pencil in your teeth, and they get a check for that. But they said that when you hold a pencil in your teeth, you're forming a facial expression that's closer to a smile
Yes.
than when it's just in your lips. And so it reflects back to that thing of that smiling actually can have a tendency to make you happier.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with it. Yeah. Because if it's in your teeth, then you're actually forming that smile, and you're more apt to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
All right.
All
Good
right.
job.
Awesome. So the Ghost Town murder. I'm sorry, one single.
There's just one. Okay.
Just one. Yes. So there's a small little outpost in New Mexico, and it's not even a town. It used to be a town back in the 1800s, but it is no longer a town. It's just kind of the remnants of what used to be there, and so it is officially a ghost town.
It looked something like this.
Used to look just like that. Yes, back in the
Yes.
1800s. That's exactly the way it used to look right there. There's Steens, New Mexico.
But now it looks something like this.
Yes, it does.
Or this.
Yes. And it's a quaint little town that's been frozen in time. The family who owned the property and lived there from the 1800s, the family continued to live there through the 1900s and into, I think, about the 30s and 40s. And then another person bought the property, and he kept people out, and he was kind of a hermit. And if anybody got near the property, he would shoot at people and keep them off the property so nobody looted the place. And he and his family stayed there up until around the 70s and 80s. And so it was frozen in time from the 1800s. the kitchens literally still have lead sealed cans of soup and things
Oh,
on the shelves, and lanterns from the 1800s, and everything is still exactly the way it was in the 1800s. Even the outhouse right there, yeah.
and modern amenities.
Which works. I can tell you that right now.
Yes.
And
This is what he was guarding.
yes,
Right.
right. So a couple named Linda and Larry, who had literally been, they knew each other since they were in kindergarten. They used to play together as children, and they started dating when they were teenagers, and they got married when they were in their 20s, and they'd been together ever since. And so they were this wonderful, wonderful couple, and they had jobs, all real jobs at real companies. And Larry just was missing something in his life, and he goes, I just want to do something different than work every day and in an office. And so he came across the town was actually for sale. Steen's ghost town was for sale. He was just going to sell the entire town and the property. And so Larry took all their savings and he bought that town. He bought the ghost town and everything in it. And so when he came in, he realized that it was a time capsule of the 1800s. So he, again, kept everybody out and then developed it to be a tourist spot. And it's a perfect tourist spot because it's literally a stone's throw from the 10 freeway that goes through New Mexico. So you see it right there when you go past the Steens on the 10 freeway. You go right past the town, you can see it. And so he made it into a little tourist attraction. And for years and years and years, they ran it as a tourist attraction. And that's how I came to know it. I was traveling with my dad through the Southwest, and we stopped in, and he's always had he was in law enforcement, and when he was living, and he always had a like one of those pipe dreams of being an old sheriff sitting on a porch in a rocking chair at the general store in a ghost town and being the sheriff of that little town.
Yes.
And that was his little dream. And here's this man, Larry, living his dream, right? Because he was the little sheriff of his little town and everything. And so we stopped in and got to know Larry and Linda and became very, very good friends with them. And we spent time with them. And every time that my dad and I would get together, I was in California, he was still in Missouri, and we would meet out there and go around ghost town hunting and driving around the Southwest because we love the Southwest. And we would always stay there for a few days. And we'd stay in Lordsburg, which is about 19 miles away. Lordsburg was very famous. Any old Western, a lot of times they reference Lordsburg, the road to Lordsburg, or the stage, because that's where the Butterfield stage stopped, is in Lordsburg and Steens, right there. And the train goes right through. And they used to have a depot at Steens as well, but that dried up, and so now they just pass it. But they stop in Lordsburg, and even John Wayne in his movies referenced Lordsburg and the movie Stagecoach. They were going to Lordsburg, and it's where Billy the Kid grew up, and so there are lots of stories about Lordsburg. So we would stay there and then go to Steens and spend a few days with Larry and Linda. And it just kind of became kind of a pilgrimage. Every year we would go to Steens and hang out with Larry and Linda. And so one time I went down there. I stopped in when I was traveling and found out that that Larry had been murdered in the ghost town. And I was talking to his daughter and his wife, and somebody came in during the night and shot him and killed him, shot him like 5 times, which was a little bit personal. If they shot him 5 times, and they shot him right there in the town. He had confronted somebody, and they shot him. And the thing was that the law enforcement out of Lordsburg, they came in and corrupted the crime scene before the bigger town crime scene investigators actually got there. So they ruined the crime scene, they tainted it, and so they didn't have a lot of evidence by the time that they got there. So to this day, there's never been an arrest, and this happened almost 10 years ago now, and there still is no arrest. And the problem is now that the local law enforcement and the people around Steens and Lordsburg pretty much know who did it. The name of the person is out there. They know that they did it because they actually bragged about it sometimes, but there's no evidence because the law enforcement in Lordsburg are related to the people who did the killing.
No kidding.
And they are the ones who came in and corrupted the crime scene before the investigators got there. So now it starts to gel.
This is just like a novel.
It is, and
like
so
a true crime novel.
It really is. And so the daughter, who still lives there and takes care of the place, she'll go into Lordsburg to go shopping, and she sees the guy. She'll run into him in the stores, and he'll just wink at her and blow a kiss, like, "Yeah, I did it. You know I did it, and you can't do anything about it." Which to me is like just like the Old West. You know, when you see some Old West movie and the killer is in town and everybody knows that Joe Bob did it, the killing, but nobody can prove it, and everybody's on the take, and that's the judge's son or something, and it's exactly like that. So no arrests have ever been made, and it's a cold case now, and they can't do anything about it. And everybody knows who did it, but they can't prove who did it. They can't prove that these 2 individuals did it. And now it's just at a stalemate now. Nobody can do anything about it other than just run into them in town sometimes, which is horrific. Can you imagine? Because they were
every movie. There's some way that you could draw them out. There's some way that you could, like, you'll find the gun in their possession. You'll get them drunk and they'll confess.
No quote unquote smoking gun. Yeah,
What's that?
The murder weapon was never found. Yeah, and so to this day, and it sits on a lot of land. And at first they thought it was the guy who originally sold the property because he said he wanted the property back, and they thought that maybe it was him because he just got him out of the way to get the property, but that turned out to be not true. And then they found out later on that actually it was these 2 people, and the reason for the killing was that the local law enforcement there, some of them were letting the drug dealers go over from the border, because the border is just not far away, and that they were letting the mules go through as long as they had a cut. And Larry had found out about that, and he was trying to stop that, and he was trying to make it uncomfortable for them to do that because they were coming through his land to do that. Yeah.
Intrigue.
Yes. And then mysteriously he's murdered just right after he had confronted some of those people.
Wow. What a coincidence.
Yes, it was a coincidence. So to this day, I just was there just a few weeks ago, actually, and drove through, and I visited Linda, his widow, and his daughter, and we talked about the case and updates. And so I guess there are different investigators coming from Phoenix, I believe, maybe in the future to see if they can do anything. But right now, it's an unsolved murder, and everyone wants it to stay that way, pretty much.
Yeah.
In the
Well, I
old,
know, I mean, all the people involved obviously wanted to stay that way.
yes,
And I know too for Linda that after a period of time with such a vicious and unsolved crime, that you have to move on for your own sake,
yeah,
or it'll drive you crazy.
right,
But how awful to have to, on a regular basis, still experience these
right.
people, knowing what you know.
Yeah,
And that-
it's like knife wounds constantly, and the only thing would be to move away, which Linda did for a while. But she's back taking care of some of her kids, and the kids have to keep the place running. And they've closed down the ghost town um, to tourists right now, and they're running a business out of the property. And so
Okay.
that's how they make their money, is the business that's on the property, not the tourist attraction anymore. So we talked about how they could get it going again, and take care of it, because it's overgrown now, and they've got to work this year to try to get it to go, get it ready for next year, maybe. And it's a great time to do that because, not a lot of people are traveling. So, but it's so hard because they have to be there to take care of the town, and they're not getting any support from anyone because people are on the take and are related to the murderers. And so it's a weird thing. And Larry was one of the kindest, gentlest, funniest men ever. I loved him, and my father loved him, just like kinfolk, back there in the West. And so it's one of those tragedies that somebody who had so much to offer you took the tour of the town. He would take you for a 2.5 hour tour and charge you a quarter for
Wow.
the whole tour, taking you throughout everything, telling you everything about it. And the um, the property behind the town is where the cavalry used to go through. Um, and he would go out there and find cavalry swords and guns and buttons from the uniforms, and bones from the cavalry who got killed by the Native Americans, because the Apaches ran that property out there. And the pass out there between the mountains is actually called Doubtful Pass, and the right behind the property, and that's part of his property. And the reason that they called it Doubtful Pass is because it was doubtful that anyone could get through without getting killed. And so he owns all that property out there, and all that property has tons of artifacts. He would bring back guns and knives and swords and all sorts of things, and put them up on the walls of the ghost town. And he would just give you the shirt off his back, and he would tell you the whole history of the place for a quarter. It's just
Wow.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow. There's so much of that has vanished
Yeah.
from the American landscape.
He was a
Um,
true storyteller.
how many places in the world um, experience ghost towns? I mean, America, that might be relatively unique to America.
Well, there it is. It's probably, as far as I know, the only ghost town in America that's actually intact. So,
Okay.
meaning that there's thousands of ghost towns out there, but they've been ravaged, they've been looted, they've fallen in. There's nothing left of them. That they're not they're time capsules of structures, but this is the only time capsule of the actual items that are in the town, in the building.
Okay.
The beds are the same. The cans of soup are still on the shelves. The sacks of flour are still there.
Wow.
It's completely filled and stocked of stuff that's from the 1800s all the way through the 30s and 40s.
Wow.
And it's still there. It's all still there. It's a time capsule. So it's the only intact ghost town that I know of in America.
So other people sponsor us, but we are sponsoring
Steens.
Steens, New Mexico.
Yes, and we will be helping them in the future try to rebuild themselves. I have people that want to um, um, pay sweat equity and even financial to try to help that town get back on the map again.
Yes.
And so that's one thing. So if you ever go through Steens, New Mexico next year, it hopefully will be open next year. But you can see it from the road, so it's something you should see. And the old cemetery is right across the freeway.
Oh, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Well, we have come to the end of our time here this week. So,
Oh,
yeah.
we're having so much fun.
Do we have any closing things we want to cover?
Just thank you for tuning in. I hope that we have entertained you in some kind of way and rubbed your brain, right or wrong, either way. And leave us comments, please, and subscribe, hopefully. And we will see you next week. And our sponsors, proud sponsors, the right there, and. Yes, and gift baskets and all sorts of things coming. So the website's being built as we speak. So that'll be up soon. So we'll announce that when it's up.
Oh, and if you want to get a hold of
Foods.
Belladonna Foods.
Yes, if you want to order in the meantime, Instagram at Belladonna Foods.
Yes.
Right there.
All right. So just as a reminder, whenever we sign off, we like to help you guys think a little bit outside of yourselves and see if there's anybody you can help this week, or somebody that is in need, or somebody who needs encouragement, or basically just approach the week with a empathetic brain and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Be nice to each other.
Empathy, and tolerance.
That's right.
Yeah.
And thank you for tuning in. We will see everybody next week.
All right. Signing off.
Good night, everybody.